Usually within 6 months or so, sometimes less than that, your yeomen who are at your command, they'll communicate to you and get an idea of, okay, if you intend on separate, you have the PGPL list, the prospective gains, prospective loss list. You'll be on that list, and they'll begin to track some of the paperwork that you need to submit in order for you to get out.
I didn't really think about or consider things like the camaraderie, like we said earlier, the Navy family aspect that I was really leaving behind.
Some of the other things are a little bit less in your control, or things like scheduling your separation physical, right? You're gonna have a separation physical for medical, things like your audiogram. All those things you need to schedule, and they have specific forms, specific paperwork.
Yeah, a lot of paperwork coming into the Navy, a lot of paperwork going out of the Navy.
So that, kind of limited the amount of time I was even in the office my last couple of weeks. I mean, I was 100% fine with it. I did, have like an end of tour, things of that nature, but they did not throw any going away parties, which again, it was, by my request.
Yeah, so you're just the party pooper.
I guess, yeah, that's me. That's me. The countdown is real. If you're watching this video, your final days in the Navy might just be around the corner. Whether you've been counting down the days since boot camp, or you're just now realizing that this chapter is about to close, there's a lot that happens in those last few weeks that no one really prepares you for.
This video is going to break it all down. From the paperwork mountain they didn't tell you about, to the emotional roller coaster of leaving your Navy family behind. We're talking terminal leave, out processing, medical appointments, and that wild mix of excitement and nerves as you step into civilian life.
So whether you're pumped, nervous, or just trying to make sure you don't forget anything on your way out, we've got you covered. Let's dive into what to expect in your final days in uniform. Let's get into it. Thanks for joining us here for the 4th episode of the Navy Nuke Network podcast. I'm Caleb Stewart, here with Justin Woodall. For today's episode, we're going to be discussing some of the things that you can expect in the last few months and few weeks prior to getting out the Navy. So Justin, how you doing?
I'm doing great, man. I don't know if our audience members can really tell how long it's been since we recorded an episode, but my beard's growing out a little bit further. My hair's growing out, man. I don't really know what to do with it, not having to keep it cut. So just kind of going with the flow.
And
you just got out too, man.
Yeah, out. Checked out of the command, right? Started the new job, so first week onboarding, things of that nature. So yeah, definitely the topic that we're going to be discussing today is fresh on both of our minds. As far as getting out of the Navy, a lot of things you have to do, right? Checklist is long, preparing is long. Hopefully by, within the last couple of weeks, you got a job, but you may not have gotten a job, or possibly working on a move. So definitely a lot of different like emotions and maybe some anxiety that can come about. Based on your experience, what were some of the kind of like the thoughts and the feelings that you had over the last couple months and couple weeks before officially getting out?
Man, it was definitely, like we said earlier, a roller coaster. Thoughts and feelings. I mean, I was really, really anxious about trying to figure out what my life was going to look like next, like how much money I'm going to make, if I'm going to be able to support my family, my work-life balance. I was just always concerned about trying to find the best match, and just it was just constantly like gnawing in the back of my brain, like, what am I going to do? What am I going to do? What am I going to do? And I think with me being so fixated on that, made it to where I didn't really think about or consider things like the camaraderie and the like we said earlier, the Navy family aspect that I was really leaving behind. Because I'll tell you now, with me being in a civilian role, for a few months now, I'm definitely missing that. I think maybe I could have tied up some loose ends before getting out, trying to come to terms with leaving that camaraderie behind, that like brotherhood, that family. That's something that I could have done better on my way out. Did you have anything similar to that, or were you just like packing your bags ready to go?
That's funny. Yeah, I would definitely say similar feelings for me, at least where I was as far as a shore duty at A school, right, in PTC here in Charleston, Goose Creek area. It kind of gives you a long runway, especially if you're getting out from there, right, because your kind of structure, your daily structure, and your actual job, right, it's not, depending on what you're doing, not very different from like a civilian style job, right? You're going and doing kind of normal day hours. You're literally working in very, office environment. So the way it prepares you is it really gets you in the mindset of doing that once you get out the Navy, right? Obviously, you're in a uniform, right? Military bearing applies and that sort of stuff. So it's not a civilian job. but it gives you really a long runway to kind of mentally prepare for that. So I wouldn't say I had high anxiety about getting into the civilian world as far as like the work goes and like the work dynamic and office kind of nature. I was kind of, I feel like for me, my short duty prepared me for that. Definitely, made a lot of good friends. I kind of can equate it to, leaving the boat or really leaving any command. There is that missing feeling or idea that camaraderie you're not going to have anymore. Maybe some people, some relationships you built, you're obviously not going to work as closely with those people. So obviously, right, some sadness involved with that. Yeah, enjoyed the relationships while they were there. I say mentally, I was prepared to leave. So some of the checkout process, right, all the paperwork you had to do and the exams, right, things medical, we'll talk about later in this episode, that definitely induced some anxiety.
Yeah,
So yeah,
that'll make you feel some pressure. Definitely.
definitely 100% some pressure.
But I'll
But
tell
yeah,
you one thing that I was totally ready for, and that was not having to put the uniform on ever again.
really, you're ready.
Yeah,
Yeah,
dude, I could not stand wearing the uniform. I mean, it makes it easy. I mean, I guess in some ways I do kind of miss it because you don't have to really think about it. You just know what you have to wear. But I mean, I have my top right here. It's been hanging there for a long time already. It's kind of crazy. And for me, since I did SkillBridge when I was going out, I didn't need to wear it for the last 4 months I was in, anyways.
oh yeah, it's true.
So I kind of got introduced into that really quickly. So I was living it up, sitting here in my office, like working from home, like not having to put on the uniform, not having to shave, let my hair go. Like it's pretty nice. That's the best part about it, in my opinion.
Now, I was gonna say for me, maybe a little bit more slightly compared to you, it's a little bit more pride attached to like wearing it, right? So I mean, I guess if there's anything that I missed, or maybe some a little bit of warm and fuzzy, some feelings about is maybe not putting it on every day. I even consider like the reserves, and we can talk about the reserves in a later episode, things of that nature. The idea of once in a while putting on the uniform, I wasn't going to be mad at that.
Yeah, I think the best thing that I got out of the uniform was when for those of you that don't know, I have a whole bunch of kids. I got 5 kids, but going to their school in uniform is probably the best thing, especially in a place like in Charleston. They see people in uniform, more often than not. In Kings Bay, they did as well. But like here in Raleigh, like nobody knows about the Navy in Raleigh. So you go to elementary school and all the kids' eyes are just like super big and they're looking at you like, oh look, there's a army soldier in here.
Right,
You're like,
exactly.
I'm not an army soldier. I'm a sailor. Whatever. But anyways, Caleb, you mentioned like admin paperwork, like giving you anxiety. What are the things that you had to prepare for when getting out these last few weeks? Since you're so new to getting out, you probably can remember that better than I can.
It's a lot of different specific aspects, but to kind of sum it up in one word, if you will, it's like your discharge package, if you will, right? Usually within 6 months or so, sometimes less than that, right? Your yeomen who are at your command, they'll communicate to you and get an idea of, okay, if you intend on separate, right? They have the PGPL list, the prospective gains, prospective loss list, right? You'll be on that list and they'll begin to track some of the paperwork that you need to submit in order for you to get out, right? So, I mean, things as simple as, right, obviously your final eval that you're going to need or your end of tour award, right? Those are things, pretty simple things that obviously you put together, you have a lot control of.
And do those early, like especially those two things. Like if you're ready to go, just have them, just type them up yourself, give them to your, chain of command. So that's just the last thing you want is to have to write your end of tour the last minute or
Right.
your eval. Like, oh crap, I forgot about it. But go ahead.
Yeah,
Sorry.
exactly. But some of the other things are a little bit less in your control, are things like scheduling your separation physical, right? You're going to have a separation physical from medical, right? Another kind of checkout exam from dental, things like your audiogram. All those things you need to schedule, and they have specific forms, specific paperwork to where you need to get those things written on, signed off by whoever the your PCM or whoever does your exams on, because all those medical paperwork, and then you have things like your Navy awards, you have to verify and print out things like your joint service transcript. Those kind of culminate, and they are going to all be placed into your DD-214, right? So getting all those exams, scheduling all that, printing out all those forms, all those documents, and then turning them back into your yeoman, and they send it off, right? And then your DD-214 comes back. Now, if you do it all within an appropriate amount of time, you'll have the opportunity to review your DD-214 before you step off your command, right, for the last time. But if you don't, right, either you don't get the paperwork in time or you have like a snag in that process for scheduling, you could possibly, get your DD-214 late, right, after you leave the command, or maybe get a inaccurate DD214 to where you can't even update it. So yeah, so there's a lot of timeliness involved when it comes to the paperwork necessary for you to actually discharge. You may think, oh, I'm in the Navy. Leaving is, simple, right? Which is not an extremely difficult process. But one thing it reminded me of when getting out and all the paperwork is like in boot camp, right? Even before boot camp, right? A recruiter's office, right? All the paperwork you had to sign before enlisting
Yeah.
to go to recruiter's office. Then all the paperwork you had to sign at boot camp, right? Remind me of that process again, right? Just kind of, I'm gonna say is as
Yeah.
much paperwork to get out, but it's, pretty close to the amount of paperwork you have to sign and review and print out. So kind of just be prepared for that, I would say, and just give yourself enough sufficient time, right? Especially when it comes to everything applicable to that DD214.
Yeah, a lot of paperwork coming into the Navy, a lot of paperwork going out of the Navy. Now, you had mentioned when we were talking about scheduling your exams and stuff, like your audiogram. And for those of you that don't know, your like medical things you have to do is your audiogram. You got to get that done, which is the hearing push the button thing. You got to do like an exit audiogram. You have to do a dental exam, and you have to do like your physical, your just normal physical.
Separation physical, yeah.
Yeah, separation physical. There you go. Yeah, separation physical. You have to do your audiogram first. For at least for me, I'm pretty sure it's the standard, but I had to get my audiogram first, and then dental, and then once those two things were done, then I could get my separation physical done. Now it's a bit different, and it depends, on our audience members here, like where they're stationed. Because like for me, I was stationed in Raleigh, North Carolina. You were in Charleston at a Navy base that routinely has people checking out. Me, I didn't have anywhere to go. Like the closest Navy place for me to go for these things was like all the way up in Virginia. So I could have driven all the way up to Virginia to go like a Navy base, or I could have gone down to Charleston
What's that like?
for a
Virginia's like
Navy
what,
base.
5, 6 hours for you?
Yeah, something like that. I just went to DC last week, and it was 5.5 hours to get to DC. So yeah, but yeah, so I chose a Navy base because I knew that the Navy's going to be more understanding of my specific situation and my Navy nuke and all that stuff. So I just chose to go to the base in Charleston because they're just so used to the Navy nuke stuff, because we don't have the radiation stuff too that we have to do our radiation monitoring. I actually came and stayed with Stuart, or with Caleb. I came and stayed with Caleb in Charleston and got that stuff done. But the bad thing about this stuff is that you have to be in person to schedule your separation physical. You have to be in person for that, which really sucks. So I couldn't call ahead to Navy Medical in Charleston and say, hey, I want to schedule my physical. They wouldn't let you do it. Not even like special circumstance. I was like, I have to drive like 4.5, 5 hours to get there. They're like, sorry, man, you have to be in person. So it's something you have to keep in mind. You're not just going to be able to like call up whatever local or whatever base that's going to be the one you're going to go to and just be able to schedule over the phone. So keep that in mind, because that'll really throw a wrench into your whole plan, especially if you're waiting the last minute to get this stuff done. Because if you're getting out in 30, 45 days, you don't have this stuff done yet, and it's the only next available appointment is going to be 27 days from the time that you can get to that base. It's going to suck. So I got to Charleston, did my dental exam, walked over to medical, then got scheduled my medical exam to then come back. I forget how long it was at that time. It was definitely a few weeks, probably like a month or so before I could come back. So you're not going to just be able to one and done, go to dental, go to medical, get it done that day. It's just not going to happen. My audiogram, I went to an Air Force base kind of close to here. It's just an audiogram, right? So I just got that done. Do this stuff well ahead of time. Get it done. It's going to take time to schedule it. It's going to take time for you to get there. Keep that in mind when you're trying to figure that out. Definitely.
Yeah. I say, and even like mentioned, like for me, the yeoman's the people who reached out to me initially with the like the discharge and separation package. If you're getting, again, I would say within that 6 to 5 month time frame, and you have not heard from your your command's yeoman yet regarding that package, right? Start emailing them, contacting them to get that paperwork to you so you can again start filling it out, start scheduling those appointments as soon as possible. Again, right, this is all with the goal that you can get your DD214 looked at, reviewed, and then in your hands before you walk off the command. Yeah, so we kind of talked about your specific instance, right? You did SkillBridge, so your kind of transition, right? You did all your paperwork prior to SkillBridge, and was it 6 months of SkillBridge for you?
I did 4 months.
4 months.
Right before I went into SkillBridge, they changed it up to where if you're E6 or above, you have to do 4 months or less. So I
Right.
did that,
Okay.
and I chose to do the SkillBridge the last 4 months because you could do the SkillBridge like starting at 180 days out, and then then you'll have 2 months after the end of your SkillBridge that you could then take separation leave or terminal leave or whatever. I didn't do that. I used up all my all my leave in preparation to do a SkillBridge. So I didn't have enough time. I just did the last 4 months. So I did all this stuff that we're talking about. I did before my 4 month period of getting out, with the exception of like a checkout with a command. How was your checkout process?
The command checkout process pretty straightforward and easy. Commands at least these days are pretty good with especially the checkout sheet, right? Having the different people who have the collateral duties, like where they're located, their room, their office numbers, their phone numbers if you need to contact them, things of that nature. So the command checkout process, very straightforward, at least for our command, right? Obviously, pretty large nuke command. People check out all the time. Almost all the offices have like a certain day even where, okay, this is the day we do checkout. So, pretty much ahead of time, the day. So the command checkout process for me was very smooth and straightforward. Yeah. What about for you at a recruiting command? How was checking out?
It's not that bad. At least for me, it wasn't that bad because I was stationed actually at recruiting headquarters in Raleigh, so everybody knew me there. Like I know the CFL and the XOCO. I see them every day. All the different collateral duty, like to go through and check. And so it was just like, hey, what's up, man? It's time for me to get out. Here you go. Like sign,
Exactly.
But if you were like in a station, 3 or 4 hours away, and then you come up there, then it's a little bit different because they're not planning for you to be there really, and you get there and they don't know who you are because they've only seen you like twice before, so but for me it was a breeze. It wasn't that bad, so I wasn't really stressed out. Now, the best thing for me, that I love to eat, man. Right? I love to eat, like going out. Every time it's somebody's birthday with like in my team, I would always, take them out to lunch or something. But I did a going away thing for me. Did you do something like that?
We did not.
No, they didn't celebrate your leaving?
I wouldn't say they didn't. They wanted to. It was asked to me by someone
But they
in
were like,
our
finally, he's gone. Thank goodness.
no, nah, they appreciated me and they let it known. But yeah, it was actually by one person. Did I want something? And I respectfully declined. Actually, I did go on some leave prior to discharging as well, so that kind of limited the amount of time I was even in the office my last couple of weeks. So I mean, I was 100% fine with it. I did have like an end of tour, but they did not throw any going away parties, which again, it was you know by my request. By my
Yeah, so
request.
you're just the party pooper.
I guess, yeah, that's me. That's me. Caleb
Hey
the
man,
party
they they
pooper.
they asked me if they wanted to do the going away party, and I was like, heck yeah. I chose a
Yeah.
place. To my surprise, they had like 12, 13 people show up.
That's awesome.
That recruiting command is a lot. We only have like
Yeah, I bet.
20 something people at the office. For all of them to come out, I really appreciated that. If any of them are watching, like, I appreciated it a lot. It really meant a lot for me. Going from military to civilian, my last
Right.
hoorah, or
Yeah.
hooyah rather.
You said your last hoo-yah. Yeah, there you
Yeah,
go.
that's what I said. My last hooyah.
You mentioned kind of planning for your skill bridge. You obviously didn't take terminal leave because you took all your leave just before your skill bridge time. So technically, right, your terminal leave would be the leave that you take literally after you're checking out of the command, and then that's just a leave that runs up until your EAOS. For those who don't know, right, up to 60 days of terminal is what you're authorized to take. That is, again, like an up to number. Your command does have an ability, obviously, it is, leave to approve or deny a certain amount based on manning and kind of what they can support. So that's just
I would do want to make a clarification, because our command ended up getting like being real sticklers about it. Most people like in the Navy, you consider the last that leave period that you just talked about, call it terminal leave, right? Terminal. But apparently, per Navy instruction, the term terminal is only for those people that are retiring. So
really.
so if you're not retiring, you don't get terminal, you get separation leave.
Ah, okay.
And separation leave is actually supposed to be like shorter, right? So terminal leave, don't quote me on this, but they made a big deal about it.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure terminal leave you can have like all the way up to like 90 days out, or 90 days full of terminal for somebody retiring, and then for separation, depending on your command, like 30 to 60 days, you could get. They made sure that we knew that if you weren't retiring, you were not going to get full terminal.
Yeah,
But
that definitely sounds like something a command would do. I'm looking it up right now. So I feel like it's important enough to like hear that distinction. Of course, you want to always make sure you're going to good, reputable sites when you're looking up
Yeah.
information. Yeah, so terminal leave, regular chargeable leave used immediately before. So it says separating or retiring from the military. I'm interested in seeing what document your command kind of utilized. Because even I remember in the paperwork that like the Navy form that like I filled out in order to like prior to going. Like I'm pretty sure it said I may have said I'm pretty sure it said terminal leave, not separation leave. I mean, I wouldn't. What you're saying sounds right, right? Because terminal end of life that happens when you retire, and then like
Yeah.
separate is just like separating. I don't know. That's
Yeah.
interesting. I'll take it as a lookup. I believe you. I'll take your word for it, but I also take it as a look.
Yeah, it's a lookup. I just know my command made a big deal about it. They could be wrong, bro. They could be wrong. I don't know, but they definitely kicked back a lot of people's terminal leave requests because they said it was too long and you're not retiring. You can only do this amount of time because you're not retiring.
Yeah, that's interesting. Hopefully they're right. Hopefully they're right.
Hopefully they are right. Hopefully they are right. Yeah, I would hate that they're gypping people from taking a full leave period before they get out. Anyways,
Everyone, right, who's watching, please look that up, right? Make sure your command is giving you everything you deserve. The biggest thing I want to kind of just note, whether it be terminal leave or separation leave, right? Just make sure you're obviously planning for that, right? We talk about all the time critical paperwork you need to do, the deadlines you need to meet. Make that a part of your plan if you do intend on taking leave as you're getting out before your EOS. So just, keep that in mind. Obviously, we talked about, discharge paperwork, talked about checking out of your command, things like your separation physical, all the paperwork that goes with, physical, audiogram. One thing we didn't kind of get into depth today, but we will later, is your VA physical, right? There's certain exams that are necessary if you're going to submit a VA claim. We'll have a video that we'll record and we'll post later date to kind of get more nitty gritty and more specifics of submitting VA claims and that whole process when it comes to the paperwork and all the exams and submission. You have a pretty good firsthand story when it comes to that. So yeah, you have any kind of like final thoughts when it comes to just those last couple of weeks, things people should do?
the stuff we talked about so far has been, it's enough as it is. But when you then pile on, like you just mentioned, like the VA claim process, but like we're going to cover that in another podcast episode, include that process. You include the job hunting process all in there and looking for a new place to live. Like if you have to move, right? So if you have to do when you're getting out of the Navy, you can still do your house hunting leave then too, right? So there's still time for you to do that because then you got to like, if you end up moving, which you and I didn't move, so we didn't fall under this, but you got to find your new place to live along with the job that you're going to have at that place you're going to live, and then you got to change your state of residency or permanent record of address. What
Yeah,
am I
home of
trying to say?
record.
Home of record. There we go. Home of record. So you got to change your home of record and all that too. So you have to keep that in mind because there's just a lot of different things that are all overlapping all at the same time. And the more that you can kind of front load towards that like 6 month mark, like have it all done then, so that last little bit, it frees up some space for you to be able to, take that and just run with it and not be as stressed out is totally a game changer. But no, I mean, other than that, man, the Navy Nuke Network site is coming out. The final QA stages, right? So we're going through, we're seeing the bugs and whatnot. Once we let everybody know, I want everyone to go in and make a profile and then give us feedback as to what's not working. Like if this doesn't look right or the drop downs aren't necessarily the way they should be, if it's too hard or hard to understand, I really want y'all to give us that feedback so that we can make it the best we possibly can. Because the goal for that is once the site comes up, we'll fill it up with as many Navy nukes as we can with their profiles so that we have leverage to bring to these companies that we want to bring in on the podcast or bring in as a Navy Nuke Network partner so that they can come talk to you. We can make videos with them. You can understand the jobs that they're trying to get you to come in and fill. So that's what's coming up on the horizon. That's the last thing that I wanted to bring up. Have the notification bell clicked on the YouTube channel. Make sure you know when we release our videos. Follow us on our socials so that you know when those things come out because it's going to be hopefully a game changer for the Navy Nuke community.
Be ready for the site to come out. Please support us. Be ready to create a job profile, right? Because again, as a community, together we can really, help each other out, and this will be a great opportunity to do so. So, yeah, I appreciate it.
All right. If any of you have the answer to that lookup that we had, feel free to post it down in the comments so that we can
Yes.
then be better informed. Yeah, let us know what your command does as far as terminal or separation leave, and if it's any different. With that being said, we'll see you in the next video.